Today on the Rahway All Day Podcast, we're thrilled to welcome DJ Drewski. Known for his role on New York's Hot 97 and as a driving force in the hip-hop scene, DJ Drewski has made waves not only on the airwaves, but also here in Rahway. A resident and local business owner, Drewski brings his unique energy and passion for music, culture, and community to everything he does. Join us as we dive into his journey to Hot 97, his commitment to empowering new artists, and what it means to be deeply rooted in the city he now calls home.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rahway All Day Podcast, hosted by myself, Ray Giacobbe, Mayor of the City of Rahway. I am honored to be here today with Rahway resident, icon in the hip-hop industry, DJ Drewski.
Thank you for having me. Speaking of hip-hop, before we get started, I just want to shout you out because the Mayor concert with 112, you did your thing.
Oh,
man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Okay, I just had to get that out.
So, I mean, listen, that's a great segue into like kind of my first question because, you know, being a fellow hip-hop head, you know,
Right.
and a person who was influenced by hip-hop and grew up on that genre of music, what inspired you and influenced you to kind of, you know, when did you catch the hip-hop bug?
I think I was just born into it, you know, just my community, my family, having an older brother that listened to hip-hop, older cousins that listened to hip-hop. I think it just set in instantly, you know, as a child. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I loved music, I loved hip-hop, and I had to figure out, okay, how do I take what I love, which was this music. I'm not as good of a rapper like you are. So I was like, yo, what can I do, you know?
I'm just reciting someone else's lyrics,
Listen,
man.
you killed it.
I have
You
no
killed
skills
it.
when it comes to actually coming up with my own rhymes.
But it was like a part of my life without even knowing that eventually it would become a career.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I always tell young kids these days, follow your passion and you'll figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life.
And that's 100% true.
You know, same thing with myself, you know, becoming mayor. Like I was never really into politics. I didn't grow up saying I was going to be mayor of the city of Rahway one day. It's just something that, you know, later in life kind of I found my way and it was something I was very passionate about because I'm from this city and, you know, it was a way for me to give back and really have a true impact on the future of our great city. And kind of another great segue into you know, my next question, and that is, what drew you here to the city of Rahway? Because I know not only are you a resident, but you also have your studio and a business here as well.
Right. So it started as a residency. I was like, you know, at the time we were on television, so I'm moving different places, living in like these condo buildings, and being on TV. I never realized like how, you know, people could be in your business, right?
Yeah.
For instance, I'm in a house one day. Not in Rahway, this is in another place, and I get a knock on the door, and I'm looking through the peephole. It's like a young woman and a mother, and I'm like, oh my God, is there something I did in the past with this? And now the mom is coming, right? So I open the door, and they're like, hey, we know you're DJ Drewski. Her graduation's coming up. Can you DJ? And it was just like, that just started happening, like music sliding under the door, and I'm like, yo, we're in a secure building, and this is still happening. So I was like, I got to get out of here, and I got to find a place where I feel comfortable and where I'm still near family. And, you know, my youngest brother, he's in Rahway. Yep. My sister's in Linden. So it was like, okay, perfect. Rahway just was a perfect fit for me. I just felt like the energy of the city was great, and it just fit for my lifestyle, right? It wasn't too, you know, in the suburbs.
Yeah.
There was still a lot of
You still had the access to Manhattan. You
Right.
still had the access to, you know, the bigger cities here in New York and so forth.
Near. I work in Manhattan, so it takes me without traffic like 35 minutes to get to the radio station.
Gotcha.
So it was just a perfect fit.
Yep.
So then once we settled in, I was like, okay, I have my studio in Elizabeth. Then I went to Roselle Park, and I was like, well, if I want to be near, you know, home, because I can't work from home, I feel unproductive. So I always like to have a studio outside of the home. And once that opportunity came up, they're like, yo, there's this space on Irving Street. It's an art district. I'm like, oh, it's, you know, it's just meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we kind of just transitioned over there, and it's just been perfect.
And, you know, that happened organically, you know, and that's a great thing, you know, as mayor to hear is that, you know, you were exposed to our city, you saw the special vibe that our city had, and it kind of drew you into our city. Right. So if you don't mind me asking, where are you from originally?
I'm from Elizabeth.
Okay.
Which is just a few towns over. So Rahway's always been, you know, next door.
Yeah,
right?
Shout out Elizabeth, absolutely. Mayor Bolish, that's my guy. Rahway and Elizabeth have a lot of similarities, and you know, I'm glad to see that you chose Rahway as your home. I know that if you have a beautiful wife, a beautiful daughter, And those are the individuals. We want people to come here to the city of Rahway. We want them to raise their family in a beautiful, diverse community. I was born and raised here, so I credit the individual that I am today from the community that I grew up in, the diversity, not just when it comes to race or ethnicity, but also the socioeconomic background. Rahway's a blue-collar town, and everybody gets up here today, whether you're going to Manhattan and you're DJing, or you're driving to City Hall and you're running the city. We get up every day and we work. We try to provide and produce for our family, and that's what makes our city special.
And I see that there's a lot of young professionals now coming into the city, especially when I'm out and people ask, "So where you from? Where do you live?" And I say Rahway. It's surprising that random people be like, "Oh, really? I just moved to Rahway. Oh, I live in Rahway." And I'm like, "Wow." Without me even knowing, a lot of people in my business are now like just slowly coming into Rahway. I'm like, wow, it's bringing in a lot of young professionals. Especially with a lot of the new developments. You have the train station right there, which is perfect for people that take the train. So I think it's just a perfect fit. If you do live in New York and you want to get away a little bit, these are the
we're here.
cities,
we're open for business. Rahway is open for business. That is for sure. So, DJ Drewski, I know that you use your platform to give back, which I admire tremendously about you. Can you just give us some examples of how you use your platform to give back to the community, including Rahway for that matter?
Yeah, especially for the youth, I feel like it's important because I know what my platform is and who follows it, and I get a lot of kids that ask me questions. I just want to, be next to me. They're excited to see me. So we do a lot of, backpack giveaways. Like we use the opportunity, the concert day to do that because we knew, okay, 112 has an audience, right? Yeah. It's probably the parents and the grandparents. It's not the
that makes me feel old,
No, me too. I'm a fan of 112, but it was like, let's do something where the kids that come out can enjoy it too. So we did a backpack giveaway, but we do events. We do I have a photography studio. We open it up for people that want to learn photography or just want to take pictures because now with the digital era and social media, everybody wants to take pictures. Music studio. There's a lot of young kids that want to record, that want to be artists. So we give them the opportunity to come and record just to kind of figure out what they want to do in life, right? Just give them experiences, opportunities,
exposure. And I always say that, individuals like yourself and other individuals that give back and kind of expose our youth to opportunities that they may never have realized that's out there, and or that they can achieve. And we have this program called Rahway Zone, where we highlight individuals who came through Rahway, whether they graduated from Rahway High School or had a business here or had a profession here at one point. And we do this so it is a way to show the young people that the sky's the limit. I mean, we literally have everything from a rocket scientist to an author to a professional athlete. And it shows the young people that, just because you're from this little city called Rahway doesn't mean that you can't achieve great things. But a lot of times it takes exposure in what you're doing and your efforts to have these young people exposed to these different aspects of your profession. And it really is a great thing that you do for our youth. And I want to thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you for allowing us to do these cool things. But I was that young person at one time. And when I decided, I want to do music, I want to be a DJ, there was nobody in my family that did it that I could go to. There was nobody in my inner circle. So I had to figure it out on my own. So knowing the steps that it takes to get to where you want to be, it's like, hey, if we can create some shortcuts because we have the ability to do that, why not?
And my next question would be, throughout your journey in life, and I know that throughout my journey in life, we had many people, mentors or individuals that helped you get to where you were at. You just said yourself that nobody in your family was a DJ, nobody in my family was a mayor or really into politics. So when you have individuals that you trust and you respect, they kind of help you guide the way. Who are those individuals in your life?
Those were like my peers, the other DJs and TV personalities at the time. So there was DJ Cypher Sounds who was on Hot 97 who really helped me get my foot in the door. He's like, yo, you want to do this? Come learn from me. Intern with me. Awesome. And I did that. And people go, yo, you interned for 2 years for no pay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with interning for 2 years with no pay so I can live the rest of my life doing what I love. Yes, I'm cool with that. And then like people like Angie Martinez, who was on the radio, who gave me opportunities. And just once I got into Hot 97, just building relationships with everyone that was there and that was successful, and just learning from them is like how I grew and grew. But, you know, it's consistency. It takes time and
course.
patience. A lot of
It's
the
a
young
grind.
kids, they think, yo, it happens overnight.
Jay-Z once said people want to emulate the end result, but not the process that it took to get
Exactly.
there. And, you know, a lot of, you know, our young kids, they want to be CEO the second day on the job.
Right.
And you just named a couple of New York City radio icons,
Right.
you know, hip-hop icons. And these individuals, you know, to take, you know, to mentor you and to kind of be there for you, to guide you. I mean, that's invaluable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But kudos to yourself for understanding the value in it, even though monetarily you weren't
Right.
getting compensated.
Because I knew what I wanted. I think once I
Yeah.
realized what I wanted, I knew, okay, it's okay to take these steps to
course.
get there, right? And I tell the kids, you know, you got to do different things or whatever, but figure out what you really want, because once you stay focused on that, that's what's going to guide you to your goal and to your dream. And then, of course, once you hit a certain level, now you want more. And I think that's what keeps me going. It's like, okay, I got on the radio. What was
stay
next?
complacent. Don't
right?
stay
And now
complacent.
let's do television. And what's
Yep.
next? And keep growing and keep building. But you got to kind of have a path, right? You can't just be all over the place and say, oh, I'm going to get to my goal. It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely,
Got to stay
yeah.
consistent
And you went
focused.
from being, you know, from the DJ to being on Love and Hip Hop New York.
Right.
I mean, you literally created a brand. You know, and
Right.
that didn't happen overnight. That took years of hard work, and that took years of just grinding and just being, you know, the individual that you are. You know, I have a young son. He's 18 years old. He's attending Rutgers University, and I always tell him, be in love with the process.
Right.
Because the process is what. If you're in love with the process, when you get to that end result, it's going to be so much sweeter. But if you're a
course.
person that is trying to cut corners and rush to that end result, you're never going to be as successful as you truly can.
And it's true, because anytime I interview say a recording artist, I'm talking about the J. Coles of the world, like superstars.
The big guys.
That's their number one thing, is like, you know, whether they were able to enjoy that process or some of them felt like, damn, I should have enjoyed it a little more. Because once you get to that goal, it's like, that was the story right there. That was, you know, everything that led to that. And that's the part you want to enjoy. And that's, for me, you know, just being able to sit with people and learn from other people. I was like, okay, cool. I know I want success, but I want to enjoy the process at the same time. And, you know, it's been a blessing to be able to do what I love. And however people measure success is on them. But to have financial freedom and to be able to take my daughter to the little gym or to small town and like little things in the middle of the day, because I know how to balance my work life.
course,
I think that to me is what success
Absolutely,
is.
and I think that at the end of the day, you know, when you become a father, you realize that you have a bigger cause.
Right.
You know, you're not just working for yourself or for your wife. You're working for, you know, that human being that you are now responsible for, and not for 18
Right.
years. And
I was going to say, you
forever.
have more experience, so it probably
Forever.
never ends. Like, it was never a break.
Yeah, and then you become a grandpa, and then, you know, that cycle continues.
Right.
But we definitely, you know, we work hard and we do it for our children, so they have it better than we had it.
I had a question for you, though.
Sure.
Speaking of kids, with your experience now in politics, if your son decided after college, Dad, I want to get into politics, what would be your answer to that?
I would encourage him. I
Okay.
think he has the temperament for it. I think he has the intelligence for it. But it has to be something that he wanted. So my son is now playing at Rutgers University
Right.
on the football team. He's a preferred walk-on. He's a very, very intelligent young man. He was a straight A student, a top 15, 20 in his class at Rahway High School. He graduated last year. And, you know, I always tell him that, you know, you have to want it. I can't want it for you.
Right.
And I have friends that have young children that, you know, when he was growing up, he didn't really like sports. It wasn't his thing. He liked drawing, he liked video games, and I allowed him to do that. I mean, I signed him up for soccer
Of course,
and
yeah.
other stuff just to keep him active. But, you know, I never signed him up for football, even though that was the sport I played, my brother and, you know, his uncles and my friends. And people ask me, well, why'd you do that? And I go, well, because he has to want it. And I'm not going to be the father that forces something on my child unless he truly wants it. So around 8th grade year, he says, Dad, I want to play. And I never thought back then that, you know, 4 or 5 years later, he would be at a Big Ten university on the team. And I'm extremely proud of him, not just for that, but just for how he's handled everything that life threw at him. So I truly believe if anybody had the temperament to do politics, because you do have to have thick skin and you do have to have an understanding that, you know, things aren't always going to go your way.
Right.
And sometimes you're gonna have to, you know, eat some humble pie. But he has the temperament to do so, and he has the intelligence, so I think he would be very successful if that was the route he chose.
Yeah, see,
So.
these are the things you got to think about as a parent.
Absolutely,
too. Like,
yeah.
You know, overnight they can wake up and decide, all right, I want to try something else. I want to do something else.
Just got to be supportive of them. You know,
Right,
you gotta allow them to find their way, but you have to instill in them, you know, guidance and just, you know, morals and just a true self of, a true understanding that no matter what, your mom and dad are here to support you.
And you played as well, football.
Yes, I did.
So do you feel like being an athlete and some of the traits from that you apply to what you do now as a politician,
absolutely.
as a mayor, like teamwork?
I was just going to say, the teamwork. Football is the ultimate team sport. You're not going to get a LeBron James and be in the NBA Finals the next year. It truly takes 11 men on offense and 11 men on defense to work cohesively in order to win football games. So it teaches you that even though you may be the quarterback, if you don't have your O-line in front of you, you really don't. You don't have anything. So and then I equate that to just putting a staff around me that I know is going to give me the advice that I know is going to be sound advice, best advice for the people, best advice for the city of Rahway. Ultimately, I'm the one who is tasked with making that decision. But I think if you put competent people around you, you're going to come to the right decision more times than not.
Yeah,
so
true.
So this is what happens when you have a DJ and a radio host on. They interview you, so I love it. So I do want to speak about one thing because I'm 45 years old. I'm an old head. I thought I was cool until my son's friends got in the car and I asked them what hip hop artists they wanted to put on. They named 3 kids I never heard of before in my life. But I do have to say you are known for cultivating young artists and giving them exposure on your platform. And you have definitely sparked the careers of many young artists here in New York, especially. You just talk about that and just your eye for talent and how you kind of know like this is the guy. I got to give him this opportunity.
So I think it started because as that young kid that had a dream of being on the radio, and I felt like at that time the DJs like Funkmaster Flex and DJ Enough on Hot 97 were playing the New York artists and local artists, and I would go to the mall and do meet and greets and see these people. Once I got in position, I felt like, hey, there's really no new artists from the tri-state.
Yeah.
It was the same
There was
artists.
a little gap there.
Yeah, it
for
was
a while.
a gap, and I felt like, okay, now I'm in a position and I have this platform. Let's go out and find this new talent that's in the tri-state. And that was my goal. Like as a DJ, being on the radio, I wanted to, bring back what I listened to as a kid. And I just started like going out and just being in parties and just, meeting other DJs, local DJs. Hey, what's happening in, Jersey or what's happening in the Bronx?
Yeah.
And just collecting all this data and information. And then I was like, okay, I went to the PDs at the time, the program directors who control the radio. And at first they were like, nah, we're cool. We don't need to play new. We want to just play Drake and Rihanna and have people tune in, right?
Exactly.
Because they're scared. You play something new, people are going to tune out. And that's the worst. You never want somebody to change the station. And then eventually like a new crew came in and they were like, go for it. Here, take an hour, play some new music, whatever you think is going to work, we'll trust you. And I played probably the artists that your son listens to, like the A Boogies and the Little TJs and, all these artists who are now, traveling overseas doing shows. Their life turned into like multi-millionaires, and to watch that process. Once I seen it one time, I was like, oh, we could just duplicate this. And I just kept doing it, even down to like the Pop Smokes, he passed away. But first time on the radio, first interview, like I brought him up there and just giving people opportunity at the same time. I felt like I was just doing my job, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, yes, they were turning into superstars, but I just felt like I was doing my job as a DJ, and it just all kind of like came together. And then people go like, yeah, but they turn into multimillionaires. What do they ever give back? And I'm like, I don't do it for them to give back.
You don't do it for a return. You do it because you're invested in the culture.
Exactly.
And you feel, and I'm speaking for you, but just by what you said, you feel obligation to make sure you give the platform, because to your point, so I grew up in an era where New York hip hop was pretty much, it was New York West Coast, but in reality, New York hip hop ruled hip hop in my era. And then you had a gap there for a long time after, your Jay-Z's, your Nas, your 50s. They kind of got, as I like to say,
like down south.
Yeah, exactly. And then these artists, and then you had your Drake, who I think is a great artist, but he's more of an artist than he is, say, a pure lyricist.
Right.
So we had that little gap in New York hip hop, and it's important to highlight and give that platform, because at the end of the day, hip hop was invented in the Bronx, right?
Exactly.
So we got to make sure that we keep that flow. Yeah, and especially when you have if I'm a program director or an executive at Hot 97, I want to cultivate this young talent, because when they blow up and become superstars, guess what? They're going to remember that and maybe do my show or do my come back to the station and give back to to the community. So
and it's a part of evolution.
Yeah,
we got to support the greats, but there has to be some sort of evolution. So it's like there's new talent, and we got to cultivate it. We got to be a part of it. We got to be a part of their story.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want a Boogie who's from the Bronx to say, "Oh, I went to Atlanta to blow up." Like, why? Why does he have to do that when you have people here in position that can do that? And
then a lot of times people don't even realize they're from New York because they're out in Atlanta or the other parts of the country, and that's where they're kind of known from coming from. But in reality, they grew up, in one of the 5 boroughs, and it kind of takes away from the New York hip hop.
Artists from New Jersey, like Fetty Wap, is a diamond artist. Like, we have to own these artists as our own. As a state. You got these guys that are just blowing up, and I'm like, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Best artist for me is Redman out of Jersey.
Redman.
Shout out Redman. I'm trying to get him for the mayor's concert one day.
Oh, we can get him. That's easy.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, that's
we'll
easy.
talk.
Red, we're going to hit you up, Red.
We'll talk after this. That's not an official announcement, by the way. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy on me. That's not an official announcement. But, so when I came into office, there was certain criticism about the mayor's concert that it really didn't kind of highlight hip-hop culture, R&B culture. It was kind of watered down, and I said to myself, I want to produce, I want to give something back to the community that's going to bring them together. And if you were at the 112, you saw the diversity of people in the crowd, not just when it comes to race, but also age, and just everybody just vibing and having a good time. And that was kind of the goal of the mayor's concert, is to bring everybody together. And what better way to do it with R&B and hip hop that I grew up on, that I know the residents of Rahway grew up on. And it's a special thing to be able to bring to the community. So
no, that was great. And if you were there, just being outside at that time, you felt the energy. If that makes I don't know if you felt it, but
I felt it so much. I hopped on stage and started rapping Biggie. I'm not gonna lie. I woke up the next morning and I said to myself, "Oh, I hope that didn't look too bad." And then Councilman Brooks, shout out Councilman Brooks, he sent me over a video he took. I showed it to my wife. She goes, "Doesn't look bad at all." She gave me the approval. My wife is my biggest supporter, and she can be my biggest critic. But I need that, because she tells it like it is. She said, "Nah, babe." She goes, "That looked truly genuine, and I think that people are going to perceive it well." And for the most part, I think they have.
Oh yeah, of course. Like, it was just a good time.
Yeah,
everyone was just having a good time.
I didn't curse. I didn't reference anything I shouldn't. So I was very. They
were waiting for you to slip up.
Yeah, I was very conscious. I was very conscious of that. But it was definitely a good time.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Rahway All Day Podcast with DJ Drewski. We've only scratched the surface of Drewski's story, so stay tuned for part 2, coming later this month. In the next episode, our guest and Mayor Jacoby will dive into their top hip-hop icons of all time, share more about his journey at Hot 97, and talk about their vision for Rahway's future. Remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe.